It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., SCWA turns our Facebook page to a new author to talk about their books and their work. This morning, we're welcome to have with us Dr. Cristina LePort. Cristina was born in Bologna, Italy. She attended medical school at the University of Bologna and then completed her medical training. I'm going to let you say Bologna later because you'll say it right. Medical training at Long Island College Hospital in Brooklyn and the University of California, Los Angeles. She's board certified in internal medicine and cardiovascular diseases and has been practicing medicine for more than 30 years. In addition to her other accomplishment, Cristina is the chief medical officer and co-founder of Genescient. Did I get that right?
Genescient.
Genescient. Oh, okay. A biotech company devoted to genetic research on aging and the amelioration of chronic diseases. Medicine and fiction are her twin passions. She's absolutely thrilled to be able to share her medical thrillers with the world. Cristina currently resides in Orange County, California, with her husband, Peter LePort, a general surgeon. They have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. So welcome, Cristina.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about dissection. Great cover, by the way.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you're pretty busy enough without having to take on the behemoth task of writing a book. So what made you decide to turn to writing? And this is your first book, right?
It's the first book that's getting published, but it's not my first book that I wrote. I wrote other books.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about dissection and why you wrote it. What was it about the story that you loved?
Well, to answer your first question, I started writing pretty late. I was going through what I call a midlife crisis. As an internal medicine doctor, I had practiced internal medicine for about 20 years. And for some reason, I really I felt I needed new challenges. So I wanted to get into cardiology, which is a very difficult thing to do because you have to match and everything, you know. It's very difficult to do at almost 50. I was almost 50 years old. And while I was waiting to do that, I read this Art of Fiction by Ayn Rand. It's a little book that contains everything you need to do to write, if you really know it. And so that's when I got intrigued. I said, I'm going to write a novel. And of course, my first attempts were not really novels. And I got training with a writing coach. And then I struggled for years to get an agent with my first book. And finally, one day, I was watching a commercial on TV about aspirin. And there was a man who got a card, and the card said, your heart attack will arrive tomorrow. And then, of course, you know, they went on saying, it would be nice to know so you could take aspirin, but that was the commercial. But I just stopped dead there. I said, this is my next book, the hell with the other ones. This is the book that's going to get published. And I changed it to your heart attack will arrive tomorrow, like this, see, this card.
Oh, nice.
I changed it to that, and that's how dissection came about. And then I had to invent a whole plot around this one card. That's all I had, this idea.
But that's a fantastic idea. And you put together such an interesting cast of characters in the book itself. Where did those characters, how did you decide to tell the story? I mean, you start from that one point and then you build out. So how did you decide to tell the story?
Oh, I thought that there was a wonderful beginning for a thriller, and then a medical thriller, and then it was my field. So, you know, everything was into place. So the only problem was that it became, because you have to increase your stake bigger and bigger, higher and higher, and otherwise the reader of it, especially in a thriller. And so, you know, I got bigger and bigger. And so I ended up with a political side, which was very difficult to research because I didn't know much about it. And the characters, you know, there is an overlap between being a writer and a doctor. You have to know how to read people, because as a doctor, you have to make a diagnosis, but as a writer, so you look around and you see, for example, you know, Mulville It's modified. My brother-in-law modified, and Silvana Moretti is my sister. And so, you pick little bits from people you know or things you read, and then you put them together and you create this thing, and you can create anything you want. That's the beautiful thing about writing. You can make up things, and direct them to whatever goal you want to.
You have such an eye for detail, and the things that you see are interesting. So the things that we see in the story are interesting and make it feel different from a lot of other thrillers that are out there.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit beforehand, because you know so much about this topic. A layman coming at it will just tell you what you need to know from their frame of reference, which is nothing. But you, as a physician writing this, so much. Was there a tendency on your part to feel like, okay, I want everybody to understand how amazing this is, or how difficult this is in reality? And did you have to pull back on the detail?
Definitely. There is an urge while I'm writing that I want to tell everything to and there are a lot of details. They're not relevant. They're just confusing. If you dump them all in, then you overwhelm a person who's not a doctor or who's not in the medical field. So you really have to pull back and just give them enough to understand the gist of the story, and not too much to overwhelm them, because there is that big tendency that I constantly have to keep it under control.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And then you have the added difficulty of writing in your second language.
Yes.
I know a lot of people who can't write in their first language. So I'm curious. So when you're thinking of the story, do you think of the story in English?
Yes.
And then write it? Or do you think of it it's your internal language, Italian, and you translate to English?
No, it's so many years that I came after medical school, so I was 26. But after several years, you start dreaming in English, and I, to be honest with you, I probably couldn't write a book in Italian right now, because the technique is different. How you do the tags and how you do the dialogue. I could do something, but not write it well. And it could be very grammatical, but again, it couldn't be,
nuance, right?
Nuance that you need to otherwise you feel like you're reading a robotic dialogue, And so, but at the beginning, it was very difficult when I came. I really barely spoke English. So my first day of my fellowship, it was terrible. I mean, I had this little dictionary that by the end of the night I threw out at the window because after several admission and cardiac arrests, and then I was trying to. So I developed an illegible handwriting. At that time, we didn't have computers, so it was good. You could hide all your mistakes by becoming illegible.
So I'm interested. How difficult was that for you to come over and do that? And this is a very high stakes. You're in a very high stakes job.
Yes.
And to come over here and to learn the details.
I had to take exams. Yes. They accepted my diploma and everything, but you had to, there was the ECFMG, which is a Educational Council for Foreign Medical Graduates, is a difficult test that you had to pass. And then for the Flex is a 3 days test, for the license in the United States. So they screen the doctors pretty well.
But for you to make that decision, that's a hard decision.
Yes. What was being fascinated by the United States? My father adored the United States. He always watched the rockets going up, and he knew that this was the world, And I always thought I wanted to see Disneyland, because Disneyland was like the symbol of the United States, because it's like the latest technology just for happiness, just for fun, not just to survive, And so I always wanted to come here, to be honest with you. I love Italy to go visit and everything, but I almost felt that's where I belonged. And then I ended up marrying an American, because of course I was hanging around the Americans, because not as purposefully to come here, but I just liked their personality, their openness, their truthfulness. I hate to say that, but it was just it's a different mentality. You know, in Italy, it's almost like people are resigned, you know, almost the symbol is, you know, they're very religious, and nothing wrong with that, but it permeates the whole culture. You like, you survive, you know, you kind of resign yourself. Here, I always thought that everybody was like, you know, the opportunity, the happiness, the pursuit of happiness. It's just that way of life, you know, that really attracted me. So I always wanted to be here.
You know, it's really funny. My mother-in-law was Italian, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, she's very stoic,
Right.
personality, and she was pretty outspoken, but could cook like nobody's business.
Right.
But yeah, I think I have a really good idea of what you're saying. And, you know, I think it would be interesting. Have you thought about going back to Italy and bringing your book and
Well,
selling
I
it there?
would love to. I would love to, because my sister can't read it. My best friend can't read it. They don't know enough English. So I hope that it gets translated in Italian, of course, in the future. I really hope so.
Oh, you need to do your own audiobook in Italian. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So what was the most difficult thing? We talked about some of the things, but what was the most difficult thing for you about writing this book?
The political side required a lot of research to get it right, because you know, I had some vague idea of the things I was writing about, but I really wanted to get it right. And there's so many details on what happens, you know, if this happens, what happened to the government and all that, the line of succession. And so it required a lot of reading, but it was interesting. And it was a little scary also reading about that.
Sometimes you find out more than you want to know. Like I was saying to you again before, when I read medical thrillers, I swore them off because I knew someday I would end up in a hospital, and I didn't want to lay there with my eyes wide open the whole time, checking my IV bag, making sure I was getting what I was supposed to be getting.
That's right.
So
you can get paranoid.
So yeah, I was reading some of the really amazing blurbs that you got on the book, and comparing you to Robin Cook, and you got a wonderful blurb from Lee Child, and anybody who reads thrillers would know who Lee Child is, and it amazed me that he speaks with a British accent. But anyway, it's this is a whole new world for you.
Yes.
Which is more fun for you now?
Everything. It took me so long to get here. I struggled so hard to get an agent and to get a publisher, and now everything is wonderful. So I'm for a little bit, I'm riding on the crest of wonderfulness.
Well, you know what? Enjoy it, because you know then you start thinking, okay, now I have to write my next book.
It's coming.
It is.
My
Are you writing it now?
has it.
Oh,
it's coming next year. It took me so long to get here that I actually the only thing I could do when I got rejected over and over was to go home and write some more and try to write better. So I have actually 4 other books, of which 2 are sequels. So the sequel is coming probably next year.
Great.
The sequel to Dissection.
Great. And so I guess this is a good final question. What do you hope people feel or experience when they finish reading the book?
I hope they feel uplifted in a sense that, you know, even regular people can be heroes. If, you know, being a hero does not mean that you have to wear a cape. You can just do the right thing when it's very difficult to do. And you stick to your judgment, and then and you fight for what you think is right. So I think that was the message that I really tried to convey with this book.
I don't know about anybody else, but when you said that, I just got goosebumps. Maybe I need to, you know, have a more exciting life, but that was a pretty exciting thing that you just said. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to experience that. Where can people buy your books? By Dissection.
Yes, already available on Amazon. Several Barnes and Nobles or several bookstores probably have it, but Amazon is probably the easiest way to get it from.
Okay.
So
wonderful. Well, congratulations on the success of your book. We can't wait for the next one. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and talk to us about the book.
Thank you, and I hope people enjoy it, and then they can maybe give me some reviews on Amazon, or and I hope people sign up for my webpage so I can let them know when my next book is coming out.
Well, that's great. That's a great point. If you can afford to buy Cristina's book and support her, that's wonderful. If you get it from a friend, or you buy it on Kindle or whatever, if you take a few minutes to leave a review, there are lots of ways to support authors that you enjoy and support them in their creative endeavor. So we encourage you all to do that. We hope that if you enjoyed today's interview with Dr. Cristina LePort, you will share this on Facebook with your friends who might be interested. Also, this interview will be packaged and put on the SCWA Writers Online YouTube channel, along with hundreds of other interviews with authors. So if you're looking for a good book, and we've got summertime coming up, so check out our authors, and then hopefully you'll find someone that you like. So anyway, until next week, please stay safe, keep reading, and we will see you again soon. Bye, Cristina.
Bye-bye. Thank you.